Good afternoon, good morning, and good day. It's your boy, once again, Big Buppo, and I want to start off this video by thanking you guys for all of the amazing reception and interaction and just the feedback I've gotten from the last two videos. This has been a really fun and cool journey, transferring from Twitch here to YouTube now, and really focusing my content on making these YouTube videos for you guys. And I'm really glad I did, because it shows that this seems to be where I belong. This seems to be a much better place. And speaking of interactions, this build that you're now seeing on screen, this is the Meteoric Ore Blade Katana. And it was suggested that I use it by one of the viewers. I wanted to put their name up and call them out on screen, but since it was like a first and last name scenario for their YouTube account, I don't know, it felt too much like doxing. But if you're watching this now, I want to thank you again, and if you want to post yourself up in the comments of this video as well, I'll pin your comment, and feel free to shout yourself out. But shout outs to you as well, though, regardless, for suggesting I try this weapon. Now, in this video, you're going to see, like the first fight and here in the second fight, these fights are gritty, they're awkward, but I get more and more comfortable with this weapon as it goes on. So let's follow up on that with the question this video poses. Is this katana bad, good, or underrated? And I have mixed feelings about it, I do, but I'm going to start off by saying this right now. This is my favorite katana of the bunch. It really is. The Meteoric Ore Blade is technically, alright, on paper, the worst katana. And why is it the worst katana? Well, it has the worst dex scaling, if that's important to you, but that doesn't actually matter. No, that's not the real reason why it's the worst. It's technically the worst katana because it's the shortest katana, and its Ash of War isn't as damaging and as versatile and has the same kind of range as all the other katanas. But what this katana lacks, it makes up for in sheer amount of fun that it is to use. This has been my favorite build to use so far. This was supposed to be the real episode 4. This katana brought me so much joy as opposed to the dragon build, right? The episode 4 that released. But this is the episode 4 that I was talking about in the last video, if you guys remember that or if you guys watched that. It was the Meteoric Ore Blade Katana. This katana had brought me so much joy, and it was so much fun to use, despite the fact that it's not like overpowered and like really strong like Moonveil. It doesn't have the bleed properties of the, Rivers of Blood. It doesn't have the, versatility of the Uchigatana and length and versatility of Nagakiba. No, despite that it's not that katana, it was the most fun to use for its Ash of War. The fact that it has a good range, that I can pull people in, and that, believe it or not, on a good connection, landing that Ash of War on a certain distance allows you to roll catch with the strong attack. And again, as these fights progress, you'll see me leaning on that strong attack more and more, because that's another thing this katana makes up for. It has, in my opinion, the best strong attack of all the katanas, because it does a crazy amount of poise damage, and it hits like a fucking truck, and it's fast. Not necessarily the first strike, but that second strike is so fast that the first one is really good at baiting out the opponent. And that's the first time I use it there, or not the first time, but like that's the first time like it started clicking for me, like, wow, this R2 is good. It does a lot of damage, it's relatively quick, and you can bait it into the next R2. So like R2 into R2 is probably the best thing this katana can do. And yeah, man, like, the thing is too is like, yes, I'm saying it's the worst katana, but the reality is that the weapon is underrated. It is underrated because realistically, katanas in this game are S tier. They have the capacity for pierce damage, and like, you know, the running R2 has a long range, capable of roll catching. It's got relatively fast R1s for like the size of the blade, so you can really, you know, fuck around with that. And then on top of that, you know, the Uchi katana, for example, has the variety of Ash of Wars, like a lot of weapons do, but this is what I mean. Like, the katana overall does good poise damage, and I mean katana as a class in general, right? They do good poise damage. They hit relatively hard. They're lightweight, so for equipment loads, that's really easy to manage. And, you know, they go fast. They go fast for their size. I think I'm repeating myself here, but it doesn't matter, because what matters here is that despite this being the worst katana, this is not the worst weapon in the game. This is a very fun weapon. Now, it does lack a little when there's lag, but on a good connection, it is the best. It is so much fun to play, and it's one of those weapons where, as I was playing it, I realized this is a weapon that in the hands of a better player, or in the hands of like someone who takes the time to master this, is going to be really, really good. So you saw there, right there, that R2, that missed, on a good connection, that would have hit. And that's the thing, that Ash of War into an R2 is, I want to say, not a true combo, but a really good roll catch. In certain scenarios, and again, I'm pretty sure it's connection based, like, you know, with a little bit less lag, with a little less packet loss, it's probably a true combo, you know, on a seamless connection. But this is Elden Ring, and I'm playing on PC. My PC has been struggling to run this. I've installed new drivers, and I've, you know, gone through all the settings, and I'm running it relatively smoothly now, but that doesn't mean everybody else has done what I've done to have a smooth PvP experience. So you know, you're gonna get some real laggy dudes. Also, I do kind of feel like a dick in this fight. He was fat rolling, and I didn't really give him a chance to like mess with his equipment and fix himself. Like, I thought maybe he's just, that's his build, but then when he started medium rolling there, I realized, oh, ooh, I maybe should have let him, like, you know, go through his inventory and been a little bit more fair to him in that sense. But he starts crouch poking, so I immediately changed my mind. But right there, that's another moment that clicked. Oh, R2 into R2. You know, strong attack into fast strong attack. I like it. I like it very much. And you saw, first half of this video, I've been using, you know, other weapons, other, you know, like dual wielding. You know, I even tried a spell in one of the fights. And here I'm trying to use the Radon Great Bow because the build is scaled for that. It's actually a strength build more than it is an intelligence build. You guys are going to see the stats at the end of the video. But yeah, as I was using this, and as I used that katana, by the way, that was a clean backstab. That was the best way to counter that. Because if you use that Ash of War on the Radon Great Bow, the Ash of War will actually fall on you instead of going onto whatever you're targeting. So it's a good way to bait your opponent into coming at you and getting the rain of arrows. But the best counter to that is just running for the backstab. And again, yeah, Ash of War into R2. And this is what I was talking about. I was trying all these other things, and the more I played with this katana, the more I just started leaning on it and only using it exclusively. Like, this weapon has become my favorite weapon in Elden Ring. And there are some really good weapons in Elden Ring that I really like, but I can't shut up about this thing. Like, this thing is amazing. And alright, you guys are probably like, oh shit, it's a bow build. And if my YouTube stats are to be believed, the bow build is kind of what made my channel start to grow. You know, that is the one video on my channel that really popped off compared to the rest of my videos. And this, as you're seeing on screen right now, is how you're supposed to deal with it. You have to stay aggressive against it. You can't give them any space to move. And if they lag, they will be harder to deal with, and they will be dealing status regardless of whether you dodge or not. But, you know, you can keep a relatively even fight as long as you don't give them space. And you have to also think, you have your stamina bar, right? But you have to also factor in your opponent's stamina bar. what I've learned using the bow build myself is when they spam that weapon art, you have to return those, or you have to run in, right? You have to run in at an angle so those the barrage doesn't hit you. And by the time you get to them, their stamina will be depleted. They'll either not be able to roll, so you can force them into a roll catch, or they will be able to roll, and either way, you'll get a roll catch. So just be aggressive. Give them no space. Give them no quarter. I was not being aggressive enough here. And see, they're rolling and rolling, and they're trying to get their stamina back up. And see, if I was just a little bit more aggressive, could have got them. So maybe I needed more stamina. Maybe that lag saved them, and those, and you know, that last hit that I did should have got him. But arguably, that's how you deal with and against a bow build. So it can be done. But yes, you are at a severe disadvantage. And yes, bow builds, as you've seen in the video before, they're a little bit cheating. But it doesn't matter to me because, you know, I still had fun in that duel and wanted to keep that in the video to make that point as well. Like, it's all fun in games at the end of the day, and so long as you're having fun against your opponent and you're having fun, you know, using your build, then that's the best time you can have. And, you know, I wouldn't want to play anything else. You know what I mean? Like, I do miss Dark Souls 3. And I miss its meta for PvP. Like, it was a lot more fun, in my opinion, but at the same time, like, there's still so much of Elden Ring to see. There's still so much of Elden Ring to do. And this katana is one of those things in this game that makes me love it. And look at that. That R2 bait into R2, like, man, it's the mind games you can play with this thing. It's like, oh, they're trying to roll away? Use the Ash of War. Oh, they're coming in after your first R2? Use another R2. Like, it's this more of a push and pull type of scenario, because that's the thing about Elden Ring PvP, as I've said once before. It's a very, you know, attack, miss, attack, miss, attack, miss kind of thing, right? Like, it's a back and forth of one hit roll, one hit roll, one hit roll, and eventually someone's going to mess up and you'll hit them. But this katana breaks that pace, and that's why, one of the main reasons why I love it so much, and why I believe this is a truly underrated weapon. Not the best weapon in the game, obviously. There are much better weapons that kind of do the same thing. Like, the Moonveil, let's be honest, is just the better version of this. But this has more to it, in my opinion. Like, I didn't think that was going to land, but if I knew that Ash of War was going to land in that moment, that charged R2 could have caught this guy, and that would have been really sick. And this is what I mean. Like, the more I played it, the more I appreciated it. Like, man, this is such a good weapon, and I wish Elden Ring had weapons with Ashes of War that revolved more around that, about breaking the pace of a regular fight, because that's how it should be. That's how you add depth to PvP, right? If you want your PvP to be interesting, if you want it to have depth, you need things that break the monotony. And yeah, this is not necessarily a meta weapon. This is a very off-meta weapon, but I think it has its place, and I think it can belong in the meta. And, you know, this is coming from a guy who plays this game very casually, all right? I'm telling you guys right now, I will be your first democratically elected president of casual Elden Ring PvP. All right, so if you've watched the video this far, please leave your vote for me as a president of casual PvP in the comments. That would be greatly appreciated. I want to establish myself as a Big Buppo, aka the president of casual PvP. And I may doth decree laws and what is fair and unfair, as well as decide on, you know, policies that would be best for all of our PvP experiences. So please vote for me in the next casual PvP election. Anyways, all jokes aside, yeah, my opinion it comes from a very casual place. Like, I don't necessarily spend all my time playing this game, but I hyperfixated on this game and have been enjoying it immensely. I come from a background where I played a lot more Dark Souls 3, but I never got into hard swapping across menus and, you know, using a crazy amount of, like, tech. I stuck to pure fundamentals, you know, parry timing, spacing, like just very basic fundamentals. And I brought this into Elden Ring PvP. And as you can see, it's working out relatively well for me. Not necessarily the best. Like, I have trouble against more try-hard, like, more meta setups. And I say try-hard using it in the most respectful term possible, because I do respect people who actually take the time to learn, master, and become good at this game on a level that is beyond, you know, what you'll casually see here, like these fights here. Like, you can see this guy, he's got a bit more of a, you know, cosplay build kind of thing. Like, this isn't like a bull goat meta, like, you know, hard swap into different weapons kind of setup, and this guy's still doing well. Well, okay, I did kind of combo him into a crazy, like, thing here. He didn't land a hit. You know what, maybe that was very rude of me to say that he was doing well, but what I can tell is that that Ash of War that he tried to set up at the start of the fight, that wasn't a bad idea. Speaking of meta setups, my man's wearing champion armor. He's using an ultra greatsword, arguably the worst ultra greatsword in the game. But, like, this is as meta as it gets, and this is a little too meta for me. If all you do with an ultra greatsword is bait the crouch poke and then just crouch poke, like, I can stagger my rolls all I want, but if a crouch poke, if it's 4 to 3 crouch pokes takes out my entire health bar, like, if it wasn't for the mixed physic that I use, like, I would have been dead in 3 hits. Like, that doesn't seem very fair, and that is extremely difficult to deal with, and it's not like you can parry it either, because it's two-handed ultra great swords. So I'm going to be honest with you guys, that did actually make me a little salty. And I was guilty of doing that too. Like, I love ultra great swords. I, at heart, am a melee strength build, alright? That almost caught me. That was really good of him to do that. That is exactly what you want to do with the Ruins Greatsword. And yes, I love the Ruins Greatsword too. But I can't stand this, like, I'm just going to crouch poke meta. Like, I was guilty of it. I did it. And that's because, you know, I thought to myself, wow, they finally made Ultra Greatswords good. I tried mixing it up too. And, you know, I was salty from the last fight, so I do point down at this guy for only having done 2 Ashes of War and like 5 crouch pokes. But, yeah, I don't know. I was guilty of it as well, but I immediately stopped doing it when I realized how strong it was. I feel like that's how most people ended up using and handling Bloodhound Step as well. Like, I remember seeing a lot of, you know, top YouTubers who did Elden Ring PvP use Bloodhound Step at the start of the game, and as they used it, they were like, yeah, no, this doesn't seem fair. So, you know, crouch poking with Ultra Greatswords ended up being my personal Bloodhound Step. I don't know. It just doesn't seem fair. But not a lot, and just to reiterate, not a lot of Elden Ring PvP is fair, I find. Like, especially when it comes to, you know, invasions, like, all gloves are off there, and it gets grimy. It gets slimy. But this sword right here, it stands apart from all of that. The Meteoric Oreblade, just, in my opinion, is the most, not only the most fun katana to use for me, but I think objectively is the most honest katana to use. If you're using the Meteoric Oreblade, you're using it because you actually, you know, want an honorable duel, an honorable fight. That Ash of War is very underpowered. It doesn't do that much damage, but it's great for mix-ups and finishing your opponent the same way a throwing knife would, just much harder to land. Either way, you know, it's fun. It's a fun weapon, and I recommend anyone who enjoys Elden Ring PvP fundamentals to just give it a try. And the thing too is, like, the katana's R1s and R2s, like, just the base damage of the damn thing, it hits fucking hard, dude. On 50 strength and like 37 intelligence, I kind of messed with the stats to see if I can min-max it as much as possible. And about 50 strength and the rest of your damage points kind of poured into intelligence, you get like 700 or so AR. Like, it's kind of nutty. It's kind of nutty, and well, that's two-handing it. One-handing it, it does a little less damage than that, but like, still. It doesn't really show because, you know, everything in this game that deals a million damage. But regardless, yeah, just the base attacks. The basic attacks of this weapon are what make it shine. The Ash of War, I think, you know, shouldn't do more damage, because if it did, then we'd just have a silly little weapon on our hands once again. And maybe I'm not paying attention to the health. Maybe it actually is doing more damage than I think it does, but I don't know. It did not feel as strong as absolutely everything else that is out in this game so far. And you know what? All that doesn't matter, because this sword made my heart smile, alright? It made me feel really, really good about this game and just had the most fun possible in this scenario. And look at that. Like, that's crazy. The Ash of War, by the way, that initial part when you like plunge the sword into the ground, that has a hitbox. That has a hitbox, and it does damage. What's another funny thing about it is because it has a hitbox, it can be parried. So if you're up against an opponent who is using this sword and is very liberal with their use of that Ash of War, run up and parry. Or if you have the golden parry on your shield, run up and parry it, like, or you know, keep a comfortable distance, and you can still parry that Ash of War. You can parry the initial plunge into the ground. Oh, and that roll catch, by the way, is the most satisfying thing of this weapon. That's what made me have the most fun with it. When you plunge that sword into the ground, you can do a full charged R2 for the roll catch. It is so good. It is so fun. Again, I'm just repeating myself because that's all I felt the entire time I was using it. I was giddy. And then when I did other builds and prepped for other videos that are going to come out in the near future, right? Like we're going for new videos every week kind of thing. Like, the build up to making this video got me super giddy. It's my favorite thumbnail right now, by the way. It might not be yours, but I know it's mine. It's my baby, and I love this thumbnail. I love this video. I love this build. It brought me so much joy that, like, yeah, when I was making the other videos, I went back and I just kept playing with this build for fun. Like, in my free time, to just play Elden Ring and have fun and just do, you know, silly little duels, I went back to this build because this was the one for me, you know? Is this the one that I'm going to be using for, you know, future videos that might not revolve around trying new builds in the future? Maybe, maybe not. There's still a lot of other things I want to try in Elden Ring, like the Mare's Executioner sword. That is a sword that I just like by design. And the Equate of Regalia, you guys saw, I've already used it in the Rotten Duelist build. Oh, and this was the Ultra Greatsword Poker who got me. Made me a little salty. He decided to use the Ore Blade with me, and immediately I was like, yo, respect. This guy's cool now. I appreciate him. Or is it? No, this isn't the same guy. Never mind. The guy with the Ultra Greatsword was named something entirely different. I'd have to go back. I don't even remember, because I have the memory of a goldfish. But yeah, fun weapon. 10 out of 10. Highly recommend, especially if you enjoy just the fundamentals of doing PvP in the Souls games. This sword will, like, if you've played the other games, something about it, I don't know exactly what it is, but something about its vibe just hits the right place, man. So here's the equipment on screen that I used. As you can see, it ended up being a sole focus on the Meteoric Ore Blade. And here are the stats up on screen here. So you can see I have 34 intelligence and 50 strength. So that was about the setup here. Anyways, have a good night, guys. Take care, and I'll see you next time.
Subscribe to Big Buppo's YouTube. You must. Or tickle your toes. I will.